6:30. I'm calling the meeting to order. Michael said he'd be along shortly. Hopefully Emily will be as well. I have not heard from her, but I don't have a cell phone and she texted me. So there we have it.
You still don't, huh?
When would I get it? When would I start?
Have to get a little closer.
Well, yeah, that may be dangerous.
First order of business, I'm going to move the food committee meeting up to right after recognition of groups and individuals in case there's other groups and individuals, as well as C under board planning session, the baseball field dedication, moving that up under item 3 so people can go home to places that are hopefully cooler than this room. If that is okay with acceptable to the
Yep.
Great.
Very kind.
I would entertain, because I know that the two of you can only behave for so long next to each other. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of August 16th.
So moved so we can talk about it.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Sue. Is there any discussion?
Yes, please. We talked also about the potential field transfer. We talked about BCTV and taking minutes, and we had an Act 46 update that I didn't see on here.
So I did respond to you on, I did respond to you on because the work plan, I was filling out the work plan because the work plan said when BCTV is coming. That was an attachment to the minutes.
Oh, so that's where that was, okay.
So that's there.
I didn't see that. The work plan. The work plan. How do we know that BCTV is on here?
By the X where it says BCTV.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
See? Point. Yeah. So I figured that covered it because that was attached to the minutes. Oh.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And then the other two?
So what were the other two? Sorry.
Potential field transfer and Act 46 update. Oh, where did all the people come from? I just was looking down and all of a sudden everybody's here.
As Christina had a communication from Zeke Goodman about the field transfer documents, which Michael agreed to send to Christina by Monday. Under the communications.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Act 46 updates. I don't recollect what was said.
I don't either, but we did discuss it, so that's the only thing I wanted to add.
I can add that line. The board briefly update. There was a brief board update on Act 46.
And also, we talked about BCTV, but we also talked about minutes being taken too. And I don't know if we made a decision on that.
We did not.
Okay.
Because we were way over time.
Okay, thank you.
Only one misspelling. Excellent.
I missed that one.
Yes, Sue.
The big paragraph under communications, superintendent, principal, and board chair with me here.
Will meet. Thank you. You're welcome. That's the one that spell checker doesn't get. Okay. Now we'll add that sentence. Any other discussion about the minutes? All those in favor of the minutes with the changes that I said I would make, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? The ayes have it. Communications. Did anybody else have communications?
I did. I saw Rebecca last night and had a little bit of a chat about the food committee.
Awesome. I think there'll be more talk about the food committee. So,
Is talking to somebody a communication?
yes, if it pertains to board business. I mean, beyond our meeting.
I was just
substantive conversation.
talking today to Tammy about PreK.
Oh, excellent.
So I can say it now or at PreK?
Yeah, you could say
I spoke
reached
to her.
out to Tammy.
Yeah, no, we were talking about it, and she said she's talked to a lot of people who are really anxious to have PreK, and they were asking her where to go to school, where to go to PreK. She'd like to be able to say, here.
But I thought you were going to reach out to her to see if she wanted to be on the PreK committee.
I did.
Oh, good. Okay.
And I said someone was going to be contacting her. I didn't say I was going to be contacting her.
Okay, well, you can contact her since you've had the discussion. I consider that to be a volunteer.
Okay.
Excellent.
I will contact her.
I have any other communications? Along that vein, I spoke with Melissa White. She has interest in serving on the PreK committee. That's it for the PreK committee. I sent off to Zeke. Mike McGillian sent to me the outline for the field transfer. He did a lot of work on that, but still has some parcel IDs to work out and make that a little bit more clear. But we sent that to the select board so they could discuss it. I sent you all the work plan. Did everybody get the work plan?
I did it. Yeah, it was 2 emails coming in. They
I know. And then I had to make a change because did everybody get the email that the VSBA regional meeting is September 19th, I think? No, September 25th, sorry.
I didn't get that.
You still didn't get that?
No, but David Scholl sent it to me. So.
Okay. All right. And did everybody get the Superintendent Evaluation link?
Yes. When is that due?
Like now.
Friday, maybe?
Yeah.
Soon.
It doesn't take that long.
It doesn't.
It's very quick. It's quick. It's sort of depressing with all the time we put into it, how little time it takes to take the evaluation, but that really was the goal. So.
Well, I understand that there was one found for a while in the past anyway.
There was one.
Found.
A job description?
A job description. We did find one. Yes, it was given to me in about January. And so they used that to update.
But that wasn't existing in the district. That was just a superintendent job description.
Oh, that wasn't Lyle's?
No.
Okay.
It was just...
I came across in the Brattleboro BCTV that it was yours.
Is that the recent one?
Yes.
That was a brand new one that had just been, it actually has not yet been presented to me, but that's the one that was created with that committee. So they looked at different superintendent job descriptions. There was one that I had found that I
okay, that's the one I was talking about. Okay. Because the words were that you had found one.
Yeah, so I had found a job description.
But it wasn't our district.
But it wasn't
ours. And so then
it was not clear in the Brattleboro meeting.
So we worked with Lyle with what she was kind of using as a job description, what the VSBA had as a job description, and worked with Lyle to create a job description and the VSBA person. So there was nothing. So you've been doing a good, really.
This year,
you came in and started working.
I'll work this year because I have
nothing to compare to.
And I just want to follow up because we've had the communication from Lexi Morton at the last meeting about the bus route change request, and just wanted to make sure that that had gone out.
It did.
Oh, great, thank you. And I had communication from Dan Normando. It's all Act 46 related, so if it's okay with everybody else, I will discuss it under the Act 46 section when we should all be sound asleep. Great. Any other communications? Moving right along, recognition of groups or individual visitors. Mr. McFarland.
Okay, because I was going to take one.
And are you all together for the food and wellness committee? Fabulous food committee, excellent. So there's no other issues on anybody's. I just want to put it on the agenda if anybody else is coming with any other issues. Fabulous.
It's the FFC, Fabulous Food Committee.
So would the Fabulous Food Committee like to join us at the table for the sake of or representatives, or? Okay, so at least 3 of us come up.
I'm going to sit right here, far from the camera.
Oh no, you'll be dead on the
Krista.
Here, why don't we run one chair?
There's more chairs over there.
Do you want to be on the same end, Steph?
Yeah.
Am I in my seat here? Let's keep this one.
There are more chairs down here. There are 3 chairs right here.
Oh, it's empty, okay.
Is it me? No, we're fine. Okay, we can
I
mix with the
think
water.
so.
You're fine.
See, we're
Okay, Rebecca, Michael.
Okay, we're good.
Okay, so thank you guys for putting us on the agenda. As you can see, we have a wonderfully robust food and wellness committee now. So this is, just to give you a brief history, This came out of a request back in the spring when there was a bid for new food vendors, that we looked into how we can improve the quality of the school lunches here at Dummerston School. And so I was charged, along with Stephanie, with forming a committee, and we had great success in getting a lot of people to participate in this process. So the first thing the committee did was look at the Brattleboro Town School Guidelines and decided that we too would like to adhere to those guidelines with our new vendor cafe services. And we also would like to participate in the Food Connects program, the Columbus School program. So Rebecca has an update on how we are now going to participate in the
I have raised money by reaching out to our community members, and it turns out that grandparents in the area are very passionate about providing healthful food for our communities. So that was not difficult to do. And we now have a contract pending with Food Connect. There's Richard over there. And they are an amazing resource for vendors, for chefs, for schools, for farmers, and we look forward to a lot of help from them. The contract is for $2,500, about 2 hours a week of work. We will be seeing them more, and we have already materials to help us, and so we can see some of the stuff.
So that was a great accomplishment of the committee, was formalizing that relationship with Food Connects, and I think there's actually a contract that needs to be signed this evening, and some questions to the school board about how we actually cut the check when we have donations that go with support. Okay, so we can, yeah, and so we're just looking for the approval of the school board that we formalize that contract, and some guidance on how we actually go about paying them once we agree to the contract. Otherwise, the committee has come up with a couple of plans that we'd like to implement. The first being we'd like to increase parent responses to the free and reduced lunch forms. We know that there's a possibility that demographically we will not qualify for any additional funding for school lunches or here at Dummerston, but we think it's really important to have that data. So we would like to ask that we have a table out, maybe a drop-off time at the beginning of the school year, which is, what, 36 hours away? And we have some parent volunteers from the committee who would be happy to just try to encourage parents to fill out the paperwork and explain to them why this is really important to the school, and it's not just about whether or not they utilize the cafeteria here at the school. Also, we have some plans for welcoming our new chef to the school. So we have a new chef who came from Academy School who's already worked with the Brattleboro Town Food Guidelines and is very knowledgeable and has a relationship with Farm to School and Food Connects. And we want to make sure that she feels really welcome. I know that the staff and Joe Carroll and Mary Ann and Kim have already met her. And so we have a card circulating. We'd love for the school board to sign the card just to welcome Tracy here to Dummerston School. Tracy, yeah, her name should be on the card. Also, Stephanie has made arrangements for kids to have name tags so that Tracy can actually learn the kids' names at the beginning of the year. Yeah, and so we're just trying to put a couple things in place to make sure that we get the year off to a great start. So, Stephanie, do you want to just talk about what the guidelines are and what we're hoping to get to for the food program?
Can I add
Sure.
the welcome?
Yeah.
So also approval to have the Hunger Free Vermont information about filling out that paperwork go out in the welcome packets, along with us tabling it, but having that backup information going out to welcome packets. Whatever you call the packets of information the parents have to fill out.
Isn't that how they have gone out previously?
Yes, but not with the Hunger Free Vermont.
Oh,
it illustrates why you would fill this out when you might not normally want free and reduced lunch, but yet you qualify for free and reduced lunch. And so why you might want to take a second look at that application.
Do you have one?
I do, and I can send you a PDF.
Great.
Okay, will do. So the guidelines for the change in the nutritional quality and purchasing guidelines can be summarized in 4 different bullet points, which I'll read. And these are the guidelines that the Brattleboro Town Schools adopted. So they did the hard work, which we get to benefit from. And these are also the guidelines that Tracy has worked under at Academy School. for her tenure. Eliminate corn syrup and high fructose corn syrup from products and meals. Eliminate hydrogenated oils. Eliminate trans fats. Eliminate artificial dyes. Eliminate pre-cooked, further processed chicken products from meals, i.e. serve muscle meat. Provide lower sugar content foods whenever possible. Increase student consumption of omega-3 fatty acids through ingredients that go to milk. So those are a very summary of the goals, and then it gets into much more specifics as you go down. So to give you 2 examples, one would be first preference will be given to fresh fruit rather than canned or frozen, but after that, canned fruit will be packed in water or natural juices, not corn syrup. So that'd be one example. Another example would be that whole grain products will be served, and that's defined as a minimum of 51% whole grain flour. But it goes into much really clear guidelines after that. So in looking at these guidelines and meeting with Chris from Cafe Services, they have to give a new quote to what integrating these guidelines would cost for Dummerston. There is a little bit of, do they do that first? Do we promote Cafe Services? And so what we asked Food Connects to do is look at how much the budget needed to increase in all the other schools in the area, besides Vernon, but in terms of Guilford and the Brattleboro Town Schools, what are they needing to add to their budget to comply? And so what Food Connects came up with is a number of $7,500, which was their estimate based on the knowledge that they know from the other schools' programs. And so what we would like to suggest is that we put forward that number to you, that we wouldn't be asking for more than, we would be asking for up to $7,500 for the school board to approve. Cafe Services is going to be saying, well, in order to get you a proposal, we need to test out if these foods do well in our school and yada, yada, yada. But I think the sticking point for the food committee is that we cannot promote Cafe Services if these guidelines are not what we're telling Cafe Services to do. Because it's not Cafe Services that we're excited about, it's the guidelines and the change that we're excited about. So in realizing that, we feel that this would be sort of a next step is to say, in theory, up to $7,500 is what we would. And I'm sure you all can come up with better wording.
So I just, you have a question? So it's a very big challenge because we budget for this school year last January, because it has to be warned. And so now everything that we spend money has been identified. So one option is that we go into debt for next year, which is not fiscally sound a great idea for us, or we take, there's not really a slush fund. Yes, that's what I'm looking for. Yes, in case it's a big surprise, because there's not really a slush fund in our budget. So that is a pretty high number for us. I'm just going to, like, speaking off the cuff without knowing, if you'd come for $2,000, I bet we could find it someplace, you know, but $7,500 is a lot of money for a school. It is a worthy thing to contribute to, and I think if it were, it would be much easier for us to have done it, say, if it was last January that we're looking as opposed to now.
Well, we're certainly looking for next year's list. So put that in the book.
Thanks, Waxman. I appreciate that. Yeah, and I think it's a question of us figuring out priorities for next year, but then also figuring out what could we do for this year to try to make this work, or is there some midway point that makes it more attainable? Is there some lower hanging fresh fruit, not packed in high fructose corn syrup, that we can grab that could maybe get us partway there, that are maybe less expensive? And then, you know, and then we can figure out, okay, and to try it out. I don't know. I know Brattleboro did not get there in one day or 1 year, and so perhaps I'm just lobbing it back to you. We haven't had a board discussion. I'm not speaking for the board at this point, but just I know it's more for Principal Ratty, but I know it's a challenge to try to find $8,000, $7,000. Yes, Jody.
I think we had such good luck fundraising, that be a possible fundraiser for your group.
I don't see why it couldn't be an idea to float.
You haven't hit all the grandparents.
I have not hit all the grandparents at all. I am not at all.
Volunteering, I see.
We did talk about it as a committee. Are we all interested in taking on up to 7,500? And that felt super challenging for us. We would definitely be interested in meeting you somewhere, but the whole number was. And so that's where we felt the 2,500 was meeting to a certain degree. Something, but yes.
And we did recognize that this was, we were going to ask for what we would ideally like, but we didn't know, I assumed that was going to be like done, stamped, and approved. So by going through the guidelines, we could certainly identify areas where we could, roll out this program rather than just starting it from day one. And it's going to be rolled out anyway. I mean, school starts in 36 hours. And so, we're not ready to start this program immediately. And the other thing, also just from my, my work on the select board and being at town meeting day, is this community is incredibly supportive of local agriculture. And I think that there's going to be a lot of support just from the general population, so we might want to think about trying to promote this at town meeting and getting more community support as well. So I think there are other opportunities to fundraise for this, but I also think it makes a statement if the school board gets behind it. So.
I just suggest articles and reviews too.
Exactly.
We have our first, speaking of the marketing piece of this, we have our first open house. It might be a great opportunity.
Yes, we have two.
Two open houses,
Yes.
the 17th and the 24th.
Yes.
Because parents are going to, I think and also the kids are going to, when my kids would say, oh, they changed it to Holy Crust, I'm like, well, you can thank Michelle Obama, and you like her, don't you? And so I think it's helpful if there's communication between families that, maybe it isn't what you had last year, but there's a reason for it, and that people have a good attitude about things that maybe like, where are my chicken nuggets kind of thing, and we can have a community conversation about the food too that could be kicked off at the beginning of the year as these things are happening.
Yes, however, we have had a discussion of what that low-hanging fruit is, and there's not a ton. And so again, I want to be really careful about being cheerleaders for cafe services, because there's a big difference between trying to get people enrolled and saying, no, I know you don't like to send your kids to have lunch, but it's different this year, and if it's not different, then we only have one chance to sort of do a hoorah. So it's really a little bit of a catch-22.
But we also, I don't think, expect the school board to make a decision right here on the spot about this. We just wanted to present the situation, and then you guys can mull it over. I will also send you guys the detailed food quality guidelines so you can see what that looks like. And then, we can also in our committee meeting decide, okay, these are the pieces that we find most important, and we have the expertise of Food Connects to help us also identify that as well. So I just wanted to get it out there.
Can I just get some clarification on the two numbers? I heard two numbers going around. I heard a $2,500
We've raised
number
that already. That's for our contract with Food Connects.
So that's wholly
That'll help
separate.
us.
That's
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
That's like locked up. Okay.
Yeah.
And so the 7,500 is an additional ask. That's the estimate that
For the increase in the budget on
the
the
increase in the budget
purchasing.
and the
the food.
purchasing.
That's actually for
Okay.
buying the higher quality food. It is the 7,500.
Understood. And so what does the 2,500 go to? Exactly. I mean,
So we have contract,
Yeah.
And we can have copies of this, so you can read the contract.
sure.
It's for the contract with Food Connects.
So that's like a different that's a different organization that helps schools connect to farmers and producers.
They help train kitchen staff. They help understand what equipment might be necessary. They help fundraise for that. They help build buy-in with your community, with your parents.
Like what you were talking about.
Bulk buying power? Yeah.
And because they have a relationship with all of these other schools and these vendors, they have long-standing relationships and understand the networking that's happening there.
And the other piece, just to clarify what Stephanie was saying about, we're not cheerleading for cafe services. What we want is better quality food in the schools. And the way this whole thing unfolded in the timeline was the vendor was already hired before we even had the option of doing it in any other way. So our hands were kind of tied in that respect, but we were happy and pleased to at least be with a vendor who's familiar with working with those guidelines. And it's actually a huge step forward that we were able to hire a chef who has all this knowledge and experience, who can just come into Dummerston School and, given the budget, can actually produce the quality of meals that she's used to producing in the other schools. So we didn't have any options because of the bidding process and the timeline under which that unfolded. And it is a one-year contract, so if it doesn't work out with cafe services, we can look at other options for the next year.
Where the board is very aware of the
Right.
end-time situation that the bidding process has. And, well, I would also like to say that it would be good to maybe at open house welcome the chef and say that these are things we're hoping to do, so that is part of cafe services. So I appreciate what you're saying, Stephanie, about the long term, but I do think, I think one thing we identified early on, it's always the people,
Right.
And so whatever we can do to create enthusiasm around the new chef and that we're trying to change things. There will be changes that include Connects involved. If you want other parents to become involved, I think it's a really good time at the beginning of the year with new families coming in to understand what we all as a community are trying to do with the food program. So it would be a good opportunity, I think, to have a 3-minute presentation if anybody's willing.
Sure, contact. Yeah. Have you been in contact at all with the person, Emily probably knew, up in Newbrook?
Yes.
Yep, so
They're doing a lot
Scotty,
of the same
Debotchnik,
thing.
and their chef actually came to our first committee meeting and presented how things are unfolding there. There was just a big article in the Reformer this past weekend. And they actually have a very comparable demographic to Dummerston School in terms of the population of students who qualify for free and reduced lunch and the numbers of students. So we're actually lucky we're going to be able to learn from their experience as
I
well.
say we don't have to invent the wheel then.
Yeah, and Richard is a parent at Putney School also, and they have, a lot of comparable scenarios to us as well, and they have their own independent food service program as well as Newbrook. So we do have a couple schools who are doing it on their own without vendors.
Good.
Certainly one of the things we keep hearing, we were just talking about this, is that it is about the people. And in the very successful programs that we've heard about, that chef makes a huge difference. And so I think one of the things that we feel excited about is making sure that Tracy feels welcome and important to this community, so that she can engage with the students as they come through and and build relationships with them, because it makes a big difference.
I'm wondering about any PTFO possibility, you think, to help fund some of this? Maybe we can get a multi-legged stool? I know I keep saying, I keep turning to PTFO, I think, but...
Big community supper fundraiser.
Are they focused right now on winter activities still and a smattering of playground?
Yeah, I'm done that. But we haven't actually met since June. Possibly have a tag sale coming up in September. That's not clear, but yeah, most of their focus has been on winter activities and some playground.
How much is Tracy directly responsible for the food purchasing choices that will happen in Dummerston? Do we have any idea?
Well,
of that?
she's 100% in terms of checking the box and ordering,
Okay.
but the guidelines are 100% from outside saying you have to do this.
Yep.
So she will check peanut butter with sugar, if that's what they say, or she'll check peanut butter without sugar, if the guidelines say that.
But she's giving the menu from...
And she's come up with a menu that you'll be getting.
Yeah, cafe services.
Yeah,
comes up
and I
with-
think one of the low-hanging fruit when we talked to Chris was the elimination of peanut butter or the maybe whatever. So I think the menus will go out with some butter and
That was a problem.
That's not even, we have so many allergies that we can't do peanut butter.
Well, but we have had it,
Yeah.
and we've used the subsidy, and it was one of the, not necessarily low-hanging fruit, but one of the things that would be least costly in starting the implementation of the Brattleboro Nutritional Standard. And so whatever those 3 or 4 things that Chris had spoken to us about that day are on the menu. But the menu still, looks happy and student-friendly in terms of enticing, I guess, the students too.
So I know you guys have a packed agenda, so
Do you want a motion for this?
what we hope to accomplish tonight is we would love to get our contract signed with Food Connect since we've already raised the money. And we don't need the guidance right now, but we will need some guidance on how we corral donations and get them filtered through whatever mechanism to get a check cut to pay for that. And then also, given that school starts on Thursday, if we could have some parent volunteers here at the school that encourage families to fill out the paperwork.
Meaning permission and support.
You absolutely have permission.
Great.
It's just how many, like at the beginning of the school year.
Yeah. We were just thinking during drop-off,
Okay.
just for parents coming by.
Yeah, that's great. And then the other thing is that our committee actually, there's a requirement for this committee to have a school board member. So just because you guys don't go to enough meetings, we decided so. But we did talk with Marianne and Kim, and they were talking about the wellness committee. We were kind of folding those together, and those committees only meet 3 times a year. So we think we can check that box of having a school board member if someone would be willing for a 3-time-a-year meeting just to get updates on how this is going and kind of be the liaison between the school board and this committee. So again, I don't want to put people on the spot, but something you guys can think about and decide if anyone would be willing to take that on.
Nominate Emily.
I don't mind. I'll join. Oh, really? That'd be great. You have so much information from Newburgh too. Which would be great. All right.
I don't think we need a formal nomination for that, do we? You're willing participants.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So
Could
anything
I
else?
be just slightly more, so how are we leaving here with money? Because there are opportunities like the open house, like the chicken pie supper, like the local first book that I did with fundraising last year will be coming up. So I would like to figure out where the school board's at with these guidelines, and I think we would present it in different ways depending on where the school board's at. And so maybe even a timeline.
Well, I was going to stick it on our next agenda
Okay.
as a board, because we have a pretty full day today, and so when it's cooler and we don't have such a full agenda, you're more likely to get the result you want.
Yeah.
Or creative thinking anyway about how we can achieve that end. So our next meeting is the 11th of September.
Okay.
Great.
But FYI, I had said in the letter that goes home at the opening staff meeting that we were very active, vibrant food committee, working very hard to improve the quality of the food that the children are going to eat. We're going to be hearing more from them and the ways that we can support their work and in the upcoming months.
That was to the parents or to the teachers?
To both.
Oh, great.
Thank you for giving some promotion.
So I guess we would also need a stack of the forms if you have for those Thursday and Friday tables. Just we figure like
You just want the free and reduced forms and you're going to.
And I'm going to send you the PDF.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds great.
Thank you for your time.
You might want to
You
go
want a
Friday,
motion
Thursday.
that we would approve you
Yeah, Thursday and Friday.
signing this for the school? I would entertain a motion that the school board approve the memorandum of understanding 2018-2019 with Food Connects.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so I think, Joshua, you can work out where the money's coming and going, right? The school board doesn't need to.
Okay,
Yes.
so Rebecca can just.
I will talk to
It's
you.
when we see it come through, we'll
Yeah.
approve
So
it,
we
but
can
those
just
are
absolutely do that.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Richard, welcome aboard finally to Dummerston, the last hurrah.
Taking 10 years or so? I don't know. Keep going.
Did everyone have a chance to sign it? Yes. Thank you.
Great idea. Thank you, food committee. Next on the agenda, we just
What's your last? What is it?
Field.
Got it.
Here
Did your
to
last.
discuss a baseball
Yeah,
field
thank you.
dedication.
Right. Thanks for having me. I've come to you first. I'm going to the select board as well, as the two deliberative elected bodies in the town, in the hope that you will support the naming of the baseball field out here, Clodagh Field. I will be as brief as possible, but not to the point of subverting my purpose here. So if you have questions after, feel free to ask them. Years ago, 25 or so, the baseball field out here was laid out with 75-foot base path. Now, baseball is played in Little League, just finished, on 60-foot bases. And the big league fields that you see, the high school fields that youths graduate to, are 90 feet. So we had this kind of odd-shaped baseball field out here. Quite frankly, Claude Goen and I have bookend children. I had 2 sons and a daughter, all of whom played here. And his son is between my 2 sons in age. And the cornfield out here had just been turned over to the school. And we said, why don't we build a baseball field here? So it was really the 2 of us at that point. And we went out and we looked at it, and we decided what was the best layout for the field. I think we chose correctly, and built a 90-foot, actually it's a professional-sized baseball field out there. And by built, I mean everything. The labor was done. I was pretty good at the start, helping Claude lay out that field, but then he put his heart and soul into it. In addition, he's maintained the field for over 25 years, sometimes with no resources, using his personal tractor, using the school water system and his own little sprinklers to put enough water on it so it didn't become a dust bowl. It's a very respected facility now. Claude is an acquired taste to a certain degree with his personality. He can be brusque, especially for people that don't know him, and when they would not follow his instructions on how to maintain the field to keep it in excellent shape as it still is, well, Claude would let them know it, and they still remember that. So he trained a lot of people for when he's not there to be able to do this. Already, most people call it Going Field, unofficially. Claude's been ill recently and recovered somewhat sufficiently to get home in April. We went over to see him, and we were talking about what he was going to be doing as he recovered. And he started to talk about the baseball field, and his voice broke, and he started crying. What about the field? What about the field? It really caught me off guard there. So I started a movement to have an event out at the field to name the field Claude Goen Field, and I'm seeking the support of the school board and the select board, and again, is the deliberative elected bodies of this town, and I'll go there tomorrow. The event, as I see it, would be a meeting at home plate as early as September 26th. I've started in motion without knowing if I'd get your support or the select board's tomorrow, attaining a rock of sufficient size so it can't be moved by people, and a plaque that would go on it in addition to a plaque that would go in Claude's home or whatever his family wants to do with it. I'm happy to MC unless you wanted somebody else to do that, I would love to have a board member or all board members, a select board member or all select board members attend. It'll be relatively brief. I would invite somebody from the men's league that plays there and helps maintain now, particularly with Claude away, and present that field to Claude Goen, not to Claude, but present the name of the field as Claude Goen Field. Although my personal preference is mayor. We affectionately call Claude the mayor of Dummerston, in violation of the democratic rules of the town. Have I said enough? Do you have questions?
Sounds lovely. I think most of us have had somebody, not you quite yet, but nephews and nieces. We all appreciated having that facility here, and what a great place it is to play. And when other teams come to visit, like, oh, this is nice.
It really is. It is that's not really the reason for the naming of it that, but he's put so much time into it. It is the preeminent field in your school district's cadre of fields. And when some schools in this area have not had enough people to play baseball, this is their choice. Chloe's done a ton of things for the school too. He's built cabinets for the cost of the materials. There's a batting cage right over there, still hanging up. That's what all those wires are.
Is that
Chloe put that in here so that the Dummerston kids could start no matter what the weather was. This again is not a factor, but for several years in a row, Dummerston did not lose a baseball game, and its one-time coach was featured in Sports Illustrated in Who's Who, you know.
Who's that?
Sean Moynihan.
Michael.
So if you have questions, yeah.
Would the school board incur any costs as a result of this?
None.
Naming?
Zero.
I would entertain a motion that the school board approve the naming of the baseball field of dreams, as you described it.
Yeah.
The Claude Goen Field.
So moved.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? The ayes have it.
That's great.
And
Thank
I
you,
believe
thank you,
this
thank you.
past year's baseball team was undefeated as well.
And Lewis White, I
Lewis
helped him
White.
coach for a couple of days here.
Yes, I remember that.
And,
Son was very excited about that.
Yeah, so it was good. Thank you very much. Landmark. No.
Thank you, Bill, and
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
for all
you
you've
guys.
done
Much
with
appreciated.
those fields over the years, and
Oh,
our
kind of.
baseball team as well.
Thank you. Thank you all. Because these people need some relief.
Yeah, I think so. This one back here.
I know. You do want it on? Please. You put it on roll.
Yeah.
Put it on medium, please.
And now we have to go find
We just have to talk louder.
good stuff. Yeah. I would entertain a motion. We're on finances. I know you felt like we were most of the way through, but nope, we're back up near the top, people. I would entertain a motion to approve the warrants dated 8/23/18, the amount of $24,048.82.
So moved.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Sue, for the second.
I had some questions, but I left them at home, so I didn't.
Well, the warrants are here if you want to look at them.
I just gave them Michael.
Michael has the warrants.
I don't think there was anything. I'll never think of it. Yeah, I'm not going to hold this up because I don't think they were anything important. I answered most of my questions, but I think there was one that was left. So I'll just get an explanation from somebody afterwards. Okay?
Any further discussion?
Did you sign these yet?
All those in favor of approving the warrants dated 8/23/18, $24,048.82, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? The ayes have it. Thank you.
So do you want any of this?
I would like to do the answers from Frank, because Jody had emailed me some questions that I passed on to Lyle on the whole budget review from the other day from last fiscal year. And so she got some answers from Frank, so we could put those to bed. And then we can be reminded when we have to go over this again in November.
So the first question was on two elementary course reimbursements. And one, the project code 000 is regular ed. Paul Smith, when he's doing the consolidated federal grants, puts money into Title IIA, which is 651 numbers in your budget, to support what he specifically wrote in was to support math and science. And so you have at least one teacher who's enrolled in Vermont Mathematics Institute taking courses. So some of that is charted in that as well. So that would be the two. There was something about other fees in regular ed. When Frank and I went through it, and Joe Carroll may be able to respond to this as well, there was some fees for Alice training, and it looked like pretty much all of that. There was a travel expense, but again, that looked like it was Alice training. So it seemed like all of those were Alice training. Is that
That,
yeah?
Jen O'Neill,
Jen O'Neill went to have that. Yeah. 1%, why not budgeted, and then in both categories. So 1% has been included mostly in the salary line, and that was one of the things that Frank said we should probably clean up next year so that it actually comes out of 1%. But a couple of places, in addition to salary, there's also a section in both elementary and in secondary called program improvement, and quite often 1% has been being pulled out of that as well. So though there was not any money budgeted, there is money there. It's just we've been pulling it out of a different line. So that was one area that we thought we could clean up for another year. Psychological contracted services were not budgeted. That is generally not a regular ed expense, but we must have had to have a regular ed student have some testing done last year. For the most part, it comes through special ed, but special ed can't pay for testing of a non-IEP student, so we must have had it. Because it looks like Harvey was.
Yeah, so we've always had contracted service for non-special ed psychological testing for that sort of thing for 504 kids.
is that what Nancy used to do?
Yes, we would pay her sometimes out of that and sometimes out of program improvement. And sometimes she billed independently. When Frank consolidated line items, accounts into sort of a streamlined ledger of account numbers, sometimes the line stayed, but the amount of money went into something else, and we are literally still trying to track that, where that went. Sometimes the line item left, and the money still went into someplace else, and trying to figure out where that went into. Because really Jim had everything. If it was a stipend for this, it was a line item with a number, and it was just overwhelming. So in that consolidation, what we found in the past couple of years is the money's there, but it's just not been where we thought it was supposed to be.
The next was a question about school board salary. We've had one board member who hasn't filled out W-4s, is doing that, and when that gets done, we'll be paid last year's salary and this year's salary. But the other thing that we noticed with school board salaries is that there is a line in the budget for clerk, and we used that to pay Tori.
I
So,
wondered if that's what.
yes.
And it doesn't, but then it shows board clerk salary, but then there's no money that was used last year.
Right. So Tori was paid somewhere with that because we ended up using, it looks like 29 is what we actually spent.
So maybe it was coming out there?
Can we change that name and clerk to scribe or something like that? So, because we do have a board clerk.
Yep.
And I realized I was not getting that amount of money.
Okay, so, yeah. And I'll put it in the notes, and then when we're doing budget next year, we just have to make sure that we're. So hang on, change board clerk to
Something.
Well, and where's BCTV coming out of too?
So that I don't know.
So I didn't pick up on that. It's not a PCT.
I didn't know this one, but
So maybe that's a question down the road.
Yep.
BCTV.
figure that out. The next question was about contracted services for custodial services. And again, I'm going to have to rely on Joe Carroll a little bit. It seems like probably we had Mass Stellar come in and do some more deep cleaning last summer. I know last summer was when we had the changeover in custodians, so.
We did, and that custodial contracted service kicked in before the summer too. He gave us from April when the former custodian left, to some training of the new custodian. So, yeah, there's a peak.
And that's an item that we are planning on discussing when we start budgeting.
Yes.
And the last one was on property and liability. And that was an area that Frank thought that we probably under budgeted. Usually we had in the last few years spent about 8,000, 8,100. The actual this year was 87, so he thinks that we just probably lowball that line, and we should take care of that question.
We also have claims, maybe that was.
Yeah, we had, I don't know if the insurance, the flood, if that may.
So they may wait.
So that may have increased our.
Did we ever get the answer about the shared teaching or whatever?
I can tell you about that as well.
Yes.
Yes.
We
So
got that last time?
a shared teacher, it will look like we're paying it all, but we always reimburse.
So where does the reimbursement show up?
It should show up in your revenue at some point.
Did you find it?
No, I haven't found it in the revenue. Okay, that's a sort of a Frank, when Frank is here, that's a Frank.
Okay, so we need to keep asking about that one.
Or Barb, because she offered to show me where it showed up, and I said, oh, no need, I trust you completely.
Oh, she did offer
Yes.
to show you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
She knows everything.
Yeah, she went through the whole, actually I had exact numbers, how much you paid, how much the other school district was reimbursed you. So I have that here. And the other, just so you know, the person that's in the mathematics master's program, through our negotiated agreement, they can use 2 years of course reimbursement. So it could look like one person's getting a year out of course reimbursement. If that person were to leave employment, they would be billed to pay us back, but I don't anticipate that.
Okay, well, thank you for all your answers. Whoops. Is it time to go home?
Last call.
Okay, committee reports, anything from Finance Committee?
Just got a copy of the warrants this afternoon. I'm going to send them to you now.
Excellent.
I don't think I ever got the last ones. Did you send them out?
I'll have to check.
You're going to send to us.
Yeah, I think we've just been too busy and we didn't get to that. Okay.
Check.
Okay, thanks.
I think we've talked about the food committee. I'm putting that on the September 11th agenda for us to discuss. Although, who knows, maybe if there's time at the end we can have a little discussion while it's fresh in our minds, so I'm going to table that till the end. We'll put it on the agenda for next time. Well, either way, it's going to be on the agenda for next time because I think they want to attend, but if we want to have a conversation as a board before that and just have a little time to think about it.
That would be nice because I won't be here September 11th.
Superintendent Evaluation Committee, do your evaluations.
Yes.
Did you get an evaluation class? It came from the VSBA, right? It came from maybe Susan.
Came from somebody I didn't recognize.
Was it Glassie? Maybe it came from Sue.
Is there a Mary or a Nancy or?
I don't know, maybe one of the
I better
admin
find it.
assistants. I don't know. Are you sure?
It was
Terry.
Carrie Lamb, right.
on
She's the
August
admin.
21st.
And how do you spell Terry?
Carrie.
Oh, Carrie.
K-E-R-R-I.
Not through
Okay, Lamb.
my Dummerston, you know? No. I can send that or something.
Great. Everybody else has it?
I have it right in
front of you. Do you want to just order it?
Sure.
Made it start work?
Great.
That's great. Thank you, Sue. Any other committees?
No, I don't know. Just had a question, but I'll ask later.
Okay. Administrative reports.
I will be brief. I do have information in your packets of just things that the first few days we've gone through and things that have been discussed, things that are mandated that we discuss, and harassment, bullying, 504, IDEA, gender equality, trauma-free schools, and just some of the stuff that the teachers have been doing. But one of the things I wanted to talk to you about and want to have you think about is having the school day start earlier. We're back to buses now coming at 7:55 and the last one comes at 8:15. And we've been thinking about different ways. It's a long time to have a start of school window. And staying outside until 8:25 seemed a little long and a little waste of time. Having kids come in for cat time didn't work for my need to supervise kids in the yard all the time. Someone come in and just chat by the lockers. Not really your cat time, but we thought, what about this? What if the school day started at 8:20? Kids would unload at the bus. We'd have our greeters down there. Everybody would be outside until 8:15, and we would come in. School starts at 8:20. Now, you don't want to change the school day start the day before school starts, like I do. So I sort of presented to the staff. I said I wanted to talk to you, but I thought, let's use September and October as a trial. People are going to come soon. We always start Thursday and Friday outside anyway at 8:25, but that'll give us time to sort of get information out to parents. We'd like to start school earlier, get a little bit more instructional time, and at the same time sort of reintroduce some additional recess supervised time, and would like your cooperation and support as we try it. We're going to go through the first couple months and see what happens if we set the date time at 8:20, maybe beginning October 1st or something like that, and just see what happens. I mean, it used to be, one of the reasons it's 8:25 is because the first bus would get here at 7:45 and the second bus would get here at 8:20. So, it was a ton of waiting around.
I was doing duty.
Yeah. So, I'd like to sort of start talk about that a little bit more and start the ball rolling after the beginning of the year, and because the buses run everything, we'll try it.
Well, we've got new busing, so we'll have to see how that
Which
works.
I have to say has been very responsive to already. Very clear bus stop. You may change the bus.
Same bus drivers though?
We do have the same bus drivers. Yes, which is great because we have great bus drivers.
Oh, because I thought you had some problems.
Yes, but that was bus. And Right, I mean, we're lucky that we have them, we know the routes. And the other thing is,
Could I ask about that? Is there's no issue at all with the staff and everything at the time?
the staff has been very responsive, both in terms of needing to step up in terms of readers and rotating through that, and in terms of being outside. If we're going to go back to having kids outside when they get off the bus, they need to have a teacher, a couple teachers along with parasupervision. Because, you know, one of the reasons we switched to cat time, calm activity time, was because of the number of head bumps in September of 1 year was pretty high. And it was because there wasn't really any rules for middle school and kindergarten through 4th grade, you know, jockeying for equipment and playtime and certain things, which we've now established. So let's see.
Our staff is very good, so I wouldn't expect any.
Yep, they are. And we did have, Kevin and I attended a Liberty Mutual playground safety training. So one of the results I called from the meeting and halted the dog pit.
Yeah.
One that it hadn't started yet, so it was too late in the season to begin it, but also really needing to look at some of the guidelines, although they're not mandates, they are definitely guidelines, but just in terms of distance between equipment and different things, what things need soft pushing, what things don't. Like there's no guidelines for covered bridges that are protected under the Connecticut Historical Society. But, you know, that tends to have the most chips underneath it, and the monkey bars has less. But, so there's a ton of things that we're going to be working on out there over the next few years. But, and part of that work will be helped out having teachers out there too. So I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but I think between the playground and starting to go to early.
So the day will just be 5 minutes longer then?
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
One feedback, just as a parent more than a school board member, is I did like the cat time because it allowed for kind of a softer entry.
Yeah.
And so I don't know about the 5 minutes, but I always found it was very frenetic in the morning, and also if you would try to meet with the teacher, and it was like trying to get the lunches out, and kids were coming in late, and so I would hate to lose that because I really did think that was a really much better way to start the day, is to come into a room where kids have sort of come in and gone through a routine, as opposed to like, I gotta get the lunch thing in, and I think it was a really nice addition to do the cat time, just for starting people in a more Zen learning style, as opposed to frenetic
I agree.
scramble. So
And I think they'll have now 15 minutes of sort of, if they're coming off the roof at 8:15. They really, you know, especially if people don't start at 8:30. That cat time can be sort of a noon time.
yeah.
But yes, they would like that.
Yeah, I just noticed it was a huge difference in how the day started out when you instituted that. That was a really great idea. So I don't want to throw everything out. Awesome.
I agree.
For 5 more minutes of time on learning time,
I know.
it's a good thing.
No, who knows what we do?
I have just a couple. I've been asked to invite you all by Brattleboro Town School Board to a diversity training on September 17th, 5 to 9 o'clock. The trainer is Dottie Morse. She's the diversity coordinator at Keene State College. It will be at Academy School. If you're interested, if you can just RSVP so that we'll have materials for you, and there'll be some food there because it's 5 to 9.
I did do that.
You RSVP to me, and I left my notes at home about my communications. That was my other communication. And I forwarded it to all the board members.
Okay, good.
The only challenge is that is now our open house, which we're trying to have presenters at, potentially. So, but I would really love to have some Dummerston representation. So Jody has already said she would do that. So we have one. Is there anybody else that's available to go?
What is that? Is that for the youngers that night?
Which night is
Is
it?
that 17th?
Is the K to 4.
Have to be both. Your parent, that's right. Jody will be here.
Have a fourth and fifth.
Maybe I'll come.
You don't have commitments?
You've
I
aged
do,
out.
but I,
You don't have a kid.
no, I don't have a
You've
little
aged
one.
out too.
What do you have to
Christina failed 4th grade? Oh my gosh.
I think I'll ask Inez about that.
All right, thank you.
So then if the school board's gonna do something at open house, I can do that because I'm the only parent, I'm the only person that doesn't have a child. So, well, you guys could do, they're gonna be here anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. She said she's going to be here both.
Put 3 down for diversity training.
Oh, you're going to come instead?
Well, you can do a nice little public school. And I'll do the 5 through 8. I know how much you love public speaking. Or Sue, you want to do that?
Oh.
Okay, maybe I'm not going. Never mind. You can laugh.
The other quick announcement, tentatively there'll be a WSESU meeting on September 26th. And site still to be determined.
The 26th?
26th.
That's
It's a Wednesday. And the last thing, last spring, Mary Green, the Asian Study Coordinator, had heard about a program in China that will send a Chinese teacher to the United States. They pay the salary. The Chinese teacher has a stipend for living expenses. Ping and Mary Green and I interviewed some people on Skype. One man that we interviewed, do you know his name?
Yes, it's Jisui.
Seemed very nice, and as soon as we got off the Skype, Ping said he would be perfect for Dummerston. And so we thought, it's a long shot because there are a lot of people around the country trying to have people come, especially people that are having their salary paid through somebody else. But we were very fortunate, and he is here. And he's at Dummerston School.
Has he found a place to live?
Right now, he has not.
He's
So
paid for a homestay and an apartment.
And an apartment, right. So right now, he is, we have him staying at a local hotel, but if you know of anyone that would be willing to do a homestay, we will eventually find him an apartment.
Because my neighbor is connected to somebody else living near it.
Okay.
So the questions have been going around as to what might be available
So,
How long the homestay?
until he gets an apartment.
until he gets an apartment, which could be a couple of weeks, probably. We have some lines on apartments. So he will be here all year.
He's going to be here for 2 years.
At least 1 year. His visa, I believe, is for 2 years. We're not certain he'll be in Dummerston for both those years because once everybody hears how great this is, Putney is ending up with no Chinese right now, so we may later on work out something with Putney, but he will be here, he'll be in classrooms, he'll be first just getting to know what it's like in the United States. He will not be going home for that time, so I'm hoping that we can all welcome him.
His family will be coming for visits, I understand.
I hope
You think so that you've heard that?
Sometimes
I've
they
heard that,
can, yeah. It depends on where he is actually in the.
What do we have to do to keep him for 2 years?
I suspect that he's very excited.
We've always had Chinese of some sort. I didn't realize Putney had any Chinese. We've always had Chinese.
Are we still gonna have the other person?
No, she's not gonna be here. She's at Academy.
She's at band school. She's going to help integrate him. He's very interested in art and music, so looking forward to some really good.
That's great.
It is.
He's a very nice man and very, I think,
Oh, that's right. You're seeing these chairs
right now.
I'm sure.
So, you know, if I walk down the hall or something, he's like, it's like, no, you don't have to do that. Really, no other teacher offers. He presented me with a very nice gift today, sort of a replica of a leader woman in Chinese history, Chinese culture. And I said, do you have any women principals? None. No. This is very different.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, it's very exciting. Should be a great opportunity for us.
We should all try to make it a point to reach out and welcome him at some point and seek him out.
And one of the things that you have to do is do some work with the community, present to the community, present to the full community, different groups or, historical society, that sort of thing. Yep. And that's part of his work. He said,
If we get our back.
you get your building, the historical one?
Got a lot of problems.
Everywhere. It's too bad.
Mold, fungus, a lot of things.
We've also talked about having that be a news article for our next news article and talking about that, and so that's a good thing to remember for whoever writes that. Michael, you did such a great job.
Oh, you did. Wonderful.
It was fabulous. Help made the children read it. He loved it so much. So,
Paul and I had tears in our eyes, as I said to you when we were reading it, because it was so good to go back and remember that graduation. And Emilio was so good.
So whoever writes that, we should also be reaching out to other community groups to give him find those opportunities for him. I don't know, maybe we have him over for dinner or something. Give him some
And Emilio's going to the Bradford High School.
Yes, he is.
He got the lottery.
Yeah.
So he'll be so excited.
Okay, staying on task here. You guys good with administrative reports? Thank you so much. That's really, we're so excited about this great opportunity. Thank you to Mary Green, who thought of us. PreK discussion and timeline. So I think we talked at the last meeting that we really need to get on the ball with this if it's going to happen. And need to reach out to people. So you're reaching out to Tammy McNamara. Melissa West White said she was willing to help and do whatever needed to be done, but there's a lot of stuff that needs to be decided at a board level in terms of the finances of this, how we can make it work. As much as we'd like to start pre-K that's all willing 3- and 4-year-olds right off the bat with whatever programmatically we can do, I think we have to take a serious look at what, because there's the ADM lag, what we can do to kind of do a soft start and then have the ADM catch up with us. So I think it's probably out of the question that we start next year with 3- and 4-year-olds. I think if we can do this, we're looking at starting it with 4-year-olds. And so we're going to have to find a place to put them and a way to do this. I've actually read a lot of the regulations in my spare time about the size. There's a lot of regulations about it.
Well, Guilford is very happy that they did it, and they're getting, people are starting, that's what moved it, I think.
Well, we've talked about all the advantages long term, and so I think the board is very supportive. That's my read, that the board has always been very supportive of this idea and thinks and believes that it is good for the long-term sustainability of this school and this community and for families who need it, and long-term it's financially the financially astute thing to do is to start a pre-K. It's that startup that's a little tricky, and it's the money. And the other very precious resource that we have here is time, and it tends to be Joe Carroll's time, which is a very precious resource.
So one of the things I've done is set up a meeting with Janice Stockman, only because I want to be able to access those regulations. I need some framework before I sit with the committee, and that meeting is September 17th. September 17th? I know. I can move that up to before September 17th. But once I have that and know what I'm looking at, then I think it makes sense to have meetings with people that are wanting to serve on the committee. But I think it's critical that the time that we, between now and November, is really focused on, is this a workaround? Can we work on this? Is this something that we can do so that at budget time we have a sense of it's full steam ahead or it's part steam ahead? But that's when I see committee really becoming important in terms of a committee right now cheering and wanting it isn't going to get us any closer to having it. Once we know that we have a room that fits the standards, that we have space outside that fits the standards, that we can afford whatever equipment needs to happen, that we could use this, that we have this many kids coming, this is what we'll read, this is what it will cost. That's what I want to be able to present to the board in terms of sooner than, so that when we go into budget time, we know it's going to cost this much, and we're going to look for that in the budget.
And I've said this before, I think explained to town meeting, the town is going to be very much behind us on this. Even if we have to just creep over the line item on the top there, they've always been good. And I think the town will understand the need for and the financial benefits of it.
I'm going to echo what Jody said, just in the sense that we can present it to, by town meeting. It's obviously a deadline, and budget obviously another deadline. But to have those solid numbers, to there's the idea of support. I mean, like we support the food program, but a little late on the costs coming in to us. It sounds like so getting those solid numbers together and the physical space requirements and all those things drilled down,
Good news article for the heavyweight
The next
news.
one after that,
So, what do you need for your meeting with Janice? Do you need a board member to?
I don't. Janice said, I keep bumping up against the AOE and the DCF websites with their sort of survey. Like they ask the question, they don't like give you the information. Like, do you meet the requirements of blah, 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 blah? Well, okay, maybe I do, but I'd like to see what the next requirement is.
Right.
And she said, I have all of that. We can go over all of that, and then we can come here and we can sort of see what that looks like here. And once that is here, then I'd like to be able to board member and committee saying, we're trying to put it here. We want to do it this way. We want to use this area. This is what the minimum standard is for teaching and support for this amount of kids. This is what it costs. And now it's a matter of marketing and selling.
And I don't know if your numbers are too big for our numbers, but has it ever been possibly or talk of combined pre-K, kind of? I'm just thinking about the spaces that you have to work with.
Well, actually, there hasn't been discussion. It's always been, are you thinking about providing pre-K?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're thinking about, if we're looking at the kindergarten as two separate spaces.
Right.
You know, I've seen, or if we're looking at it as separate space. I think when you work with the kindergarten teachers, who are sort of established kindergarten teachers, they're less favorable to a pre-K. When you decide as a committee this is what you want to do, and you hire somebody that comes from that kind of background,
Yeah.
it's fine.
Now, can anybody help you with any of this? It sounds like you've got quite a job to do this.
I have to do this part first, and then yes, there'll be kind of.
And this group that this school count, this is what you think you're going to get here, school count that you give us.
Enrollment for this year.
Yeah. So you could very easily end up with plus or minus when school opens up.
On any given day. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still got that one small class though.
If you're willing to have me, I'd love to come when Janice Stockman comes through, just to be thinking creatively about and getting her opinion, but I don't want to step on your toes, so it's up to you.
Okay. I would rather meet with you after and
A one-on-one.
I want to get in and get what I need, and then,
It's really, if you build it, they will come, because Guilford, this is their second year, and they are fully enrolled at pre-K, so 2 years in a row now, fully enrolled. And they, people have just, as you said, people are going there because of the pre-K, and now they have 21 this year registered in kindergarten. And so it's like they took all of their pre-K kids, moved into kindergarten, and they know the school, and they are ready. And then they have some other SIBs that have moved in because of them. So,
when we did the survey or whatever, there's plenty of people out there that are very excited about doing this. And Tammy's daughter would be pre-K.
Yeah, the Dummerston Facebook posted somebody moving from New York to be very looking at Dummerston and moving back to on the Dummerston Facebook. And I wanted to say something, I don't know.
and which Dummerston Facebook?
No, it's a closed group.
Dummerston.
Yeah. I think Tammy built it.
I know, realtors hear it all the time, so.
No, this has been part of the thinking all along, that we need to really introduce people that want to move their children. If they're happy at a private school, then they don't want to move their children, and so we want to give them the same opportunity to try our fabulous public school. And that if we keep one student, if we have one student attend here every year, it pays for the pre-K program because of how it's currently funded. Now that I say this, I know they're going to change the funding, but in our current funding scenario, it pays for the whole program if we can book in one child. It's just starting it out, and I just want to be cautious that I don't see a pathway to have it be, because we've already been asked that question, is it going to be all 3 and 4 year olds, and I don't see it
I
starting
think we
out
should
that way.
start with 4.
So,
Now
I
we just have to
wanted
bite the bullet and do it.
Excellent.
Without
So we
waiting
will look
additional
forward to
vote.
hearing from you after you meet with Janice Stockman, and I will put that on the agenda. October 9th. Oh, which is already on the agenda. So never mind. October 9th. It's already on.
October 9th.
It's already on our work plan. So I drafted a letter to the food committee, but now since they've asked us for money, I feel funny. Sending them a thank you for all you've done, harvesting the low-hanging fruit letter. Not that I won't send them a letter thanking them for their work, but I feel like to send them this letter without any sort of substantive, like, how about this, is a little awkward. So we could skip right over that for now, and maybe we can use that time to discuss, 10 do we have?
54.
You okay over there?
Right, so why don't we table that possible food committee discussion to after the employee health concern update?
I'd like to move that we go into executive session.
Sorry, I'm not prepared for this. I am prepared for this, I just don't have.
I need the proper wording.
I know it. We are going into executive session under 1 VSA 313A1B to discuss labor relations agreements with employees. Do I have a motion to do that? You
So
moved that.
I moved that.
So Jody
second.
moved it second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Nays, abstentions? The ayes have it.
Are we inviting administration in to?
We are inviting, thank you, Michael, we are inviting administration to stay. So we're rising from executive session at 8:17. Thank you, Lyle. And there's no action taken. Do we want to have a quick food committee discussion just so we can speak as a board about the presentation and the money and the money that we don't have budgeted? I think I was crystal in on that point.
And we can't do that this year too much.
I know we can't do that this year too much because we're talking about starting with PreK next year, so we can't burden next year particularly because that was going to be our tricky year. I still don't quite understand how much money we have around because of the clawback and everything. So maybe that's my last question to Frank is what is the final tally on funds that we have that we might be able to use towards some of these things that are. I had hoped to use it for cushioning next year's PreK starting, but maybe there's a little something we can do.
They've done a marvelous job, this organization. I've never seen such a group so quickly do something, and they're really into it. I think they deserve our thanks for that.
Yes. Well, I think I have to do a thank you letter. I just feel a little funky.
Yeah.
I wrote the thank you letter in advance before, it's not a $1,000 request, it's a $7,000 request. I think there's also a lot of opportunity for fundraising amongst families a little bit wider. I mean, I would chip in for that, and I don't have a child that eats a meal at the
Well, I'm
school,
one of the
so-
grandmothers that would chip in too.
Yeah, so I think
Grandmothers don't get enough news from the community, and I know I can go to the website, but I think that you need to send double things home. One letter from parents and one letter from parents.
I don't need any more papers.
Weren't we talking about the copier?
Right. Anyway, but I don't see how we can possibly come up with $7,000. We can look at the budget, as you say, with Frank, and see what we've got.
So can you find out what we've got? And but there was some money in the food fund as well. We weren't quite using as much as we budgeted for, so I think that was some other money instead of just general budget stuff.
Right, but I thought when we were looking for cuts,
maybe
we
took
cut
that
down
into our
to
budget.
exactly what we paid.
Yeah. I think you're right.
I also think that reality is too that you're going to have to look at the participation decreasing, which is 7,500 plus what then you're not making in anticipated revenue, because even academies, educated palates now took a while, and you. At open house, if we do serve food, which would be a good time to get everybody here, they may be met with questions about, what's the matter with, don't tell me we can't have jello, whatever it is, but.
I know so many children don't have that palate for the kind of food that we all like, or should have.
Right. Should have versus like. Yeah, that's interesting because that is part of the conversation. It's not just the $7,500, it's whatever. If you're losing participation, what that does. So maybe it's really closer to what is in effect, then that effect is a $10,000 problem, maybe a better guesstimate on that.
And to go into it slowly, I think, somehow, is the process that should be happening. And see how it works out.
And I think Chris had said that we can, we can work with you, but we have a contract that we signed. Well, if we're going to change and require this amount at this cost, then we have to go back to the board to negotiate the contract too. But as you said, there are things that we can do that I know right now we can do without blinking and improve the quality of the food.
Yeah, start introducing the food, starting, just...
And we already put out something, I talked to the teachers, that kids will have name tags for the first few weeks of school as their teachers. She is great. She's great. She's, I think will be very, kids are gonna love her. It'll be very good. And I'm just a tad bit concerned, and you can help me with this. I feel like the free and reduced paperwork is a very confidential thing that you're asking parents to do. They're looking at their income. It comes back. People here today, 2 people that do the verification of whether or not they actually went through a 3-hour training online. I mean, I may be just anticipating a problem that there isn't any, and maybe their work is just saying, hey, make sure you look at this, and if you need help, let us know.
It helps us even if you fill it out. I mean, I think that's the message. It helps us even if you fill this out, regardless of if you're gonna use it at all or not.
I mean, they could say that Mary Ann Runge can help them fill it out, or somebody confidential could help them if they needed help, but parent volunteers should not be.
No, I didn't get that they were going to be doing that. I think they were just going to be all
making sure. But it just helps if they qualify, right? It doesn't help.
No, it helps if they just fill it out, even if they fill it out.
Reading what I read, or it helped, and I didn't understand that, but they've already talked to the young man, Chris that's up there, up and moving, and I didn't understand it, but he's been through the process, so he's been coming to their meetings, or has come to their meetings. So I think they maybe know more than we do about how it helps. But I think he said even if
people might not think that they qualify, but they may.
Or too proud to do it.
True.
Yeah, I don't see that necessarily happening. No, I don't. Because you can fill it out. It's pretty clear on the front of it whether you qualify or not. If you qualify, great. And I think there are people after talking to you, Christina, that may qualify, but feel that they're not going to use it.
It depends on how many kids in the family and all this.
Those people should definitely fill it out, even if you don't want to use it.
Yes.
But if you fill it out and you don't qualify, and many people look at it and say, my income is over this with this many kids, I don't know of a mechanism that would then help us out with that.
No, it would not.
Okay.
No, we're not pushing everybody to fill it out. It's just, if you just look at that and say, well, that doesn't work for me, no, but I think for those
But if
people,
you certainly qualify, it would help us tremendously if you fill this out, even if you bring your own lunch.
yes.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense to me.
So I'll just email Rachel, just make sure that they're directing people to Mary Ann Runge, and who doesn't want to be directed to Mary Ann Runge if they need help, so that we're not putting parents in a weird situation.
When are those due back? That's the question.
As soon as you can, yeah. But you can send them back in December, and you would qualify if you qualify.
Yeah, as soon as possible. Yeah.
Okay, so when we have an idea of if there's any money, and as we're kind of having this PreK discussion, try to put it into the money that we don't have that we're going to spend pile. And it would be very good to support it in some fashion. So,
No,
I'm done with my comment.
there's also, over the past couple of years, I can't think of what the word is, but kids come already qualified. They're already designated.
Yes, because they're in other programs.
Yes. So those parents don't even need to fill it out. So there's that piece too. Like, it's interesting how many kids come.
Already qualified.
Yeah.
And there's several different things that they can.
Yep.
And we don't need to know who they are, we just do the people.
Any other thoughts on that food situation? Stay tuned. I'm sure Frank's going to tell us we have $200,000.
You are a dreamer.
Act 46 presentation. Oh, I can hardly wait for September 19th. So I had a communication actually from John McLean, just as an aside a little bit. Guilford is having a community discussion. He asked if I would come and just if there's any questions, answer them. I said I don't like to interfere with other towns' processes. If there's something that you have a question about, I'll be there to back you up or answer. So that's the 5th September. I'm going to go down and do that. And I believe, Jody, you told me that I'm on the agenda, which was not actually the conversation I had, but
well,
I'm there.
it may not be the same. It may be true. But your name was on there, so.
But whereas most of that board is pretty new too, so I don't think any of them have attended AGS meetings either. So it's down to the moderator and the citizens. So I said I would present with that. Working on the Dummerston, and Michael and I have met twice to start the answering our one page of questions. Are you waiting? Are you asking me to?
No, I'm going.
You're flying
crazy.
I thought you had a lot of questions.
I'm doing this.
I'll take over this one.
Here.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
You're definitely mad at me.
Yeah, they've been over here.
I think I mentioned to the board that Vernon is not being given an opportunity to present to the State Board of Education because nothing's being recommended to be done to them at this point, although moving them to another SU would be a significant recommendation. They were part of the AGS. They're a good reason to do the AGS. So I would like to get the blessing from the board that because I think it's very, one of the things that make the AGS more attractive is that Vernon stays in as an equal partner, so that we would give 2 minutes of our ample 10-minute presentation time to Vernon as a gesture of working well with others, collaborating with our SU, and underscoring the importance of keeping Vernon an equal partner in our SU. So just before I actually give up those 2 minutes, just wanted to hear from the board if they had any concerns about my being.
I'm fine. You want a motion?
I don't think I need a motion for that. I just want to have a board. It's not a, I'm not spending any money. It's just time. So, we'd have the next
I think we
meeting.
needed an executive session on Act 46.
About the presentation? Okay, well, let me finish the presentation and we can entertain that. Because then if there's not going to be action, which I can't imagine there's going to be action, I can send everybody else home. If you want to do that, or anybody, I can send. I think we are, Michael and I are honing up. Did you want to say something, Michael? I feel like you want to talk. I would like to talk less. What would you like to say?
We started writing some stuff for
I thought you were looking to speak.
One-page presentation.
Yep.
Yeah. It's kind of a tight limit. What you're allowed to write. But there's still some time remaining.
Well, there's footnoting that can be done as well, and they didn't, as I say, they didn't recommend a fund. I think one of the next piece we're talking about is when I look at the other considerations of the secretary, one of the things that really, are you with me? One of the things that really has stuck with me and annoyed me greatly is the discussion that there was low voter turnout. She was talking generally why a no vote should be considered public sentiment and should not be, community sentiment and should not be regarded, and there's a paragraph in there, misinformation to voters, low voter turnout, people don't understand. I can't imagine our study committee doing a better job. It went on for so long, the newspaper articles, the voter turnout was excellent, so I think this patronizing idea that it's community sentiment in our SU anyway, and maybe that's, she was speaking in general terms, but she applied it to our SU. And there was not misinformation that I know I've sent out. There was some misinformation sent out, but it was not about the AGS that I know of. So, and if somebody said something, I was quick to correct it as quickly as I could. So I think part of our presentation will be devoted to addressing community sentiment versus a no vote. And
it's interesting, if you vote yes, you merge. But if you vote no, it's community sentiment. Very interesting. No.
So is there any other, so next week we're going to hopefully send out some sort of rough sketch of where we're at for our next meeting, well in advance of our next meeting, would you say, Michael?
Yes.
So we can really have a good half an hour, 45 minutes, so I can get feedback and make sure that you think I am represented. And I'm also, actually, would anybody else like to do it?
She'd like to get out of it.
It's 9 o'clock in Chester on the 19th. For the SBE meeting. Right.
It starts with Brattleboro and Dummerston's afterwards.
Right. I think it starts at 8:30 to 9:30 as their
is the rah-rah
right, their time. And then I think you're right, it's Brattleboro.
Yeah.
So in alphabetical order, are we? So,
You got that part right, huh?
If you want some more support, yeah.
Oh, I'd love to have, I mean, I'll be there.
Oh, good. Okay.
Well, I think our whole board ought to go up and present, but stand behind Christina.
Yeah, you can, I'd love if you sat with me.
And we'll have Vernon sitting with us, so they're going to have to come bring some more chairs.
Yes, I understand that's an issue.
Day again? September
19th.
19th.
Yom Kippur.
Yes. Becca Ballot may not be able to attend because it's Yom Kippur.
Isn't that wonderful?
Isn't that fabulous?
You know that we have our open houses. We work 2 open houses on Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah.
And
Another
and the
example.
State Board of Education can't even
Yeah.
consider that.
Another example of why local sometimes beats large government.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Example number 482. So can I close out that item? Number 4, let me just, I hear you, let me just make sure. So next week I have mostly the preparation for the State Board of Education and Food Committee. 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now, sorry, next meeting, sorry, I'm sorry. And so the 11th, no, 9/11.
Can I Skype into that meeting? If I know how?
Yeah, it's absolutely allowed.
Yeah, I know it's allowed, but I don't know how, but anyway, okay.
Yeah, if you
Skype or Zoom.
Google Hangout, there are lots of ways you can do it. Do you have a Skype account?
No, but I have a,
Ask
how about
Sylvie.
FaceTime?
Okay.
I've done FaceTime with the
I might
girls.
have an Apple by then. Who knows?
Well, I do have an Apple.
Do you guys think that's a good, yeah, thing for?
I have used that before.
Okay.
When traveling with the
You
girls.
could just
but
be
I'm
on
not-
the phone too.
I could just be sitting there the whole time.
Because what are we going to do this with it? It's not going to,
Yeah,
maybe
that's
it's
the
not the
problem.
best.
FaceTime is so tiny. There's Skype, we could
Do it
put you on the wall.
Well, I could look at the agenda, and if there was anything that I felt that I needed to, I could have Christina call me.
And then the only other thing I have is, like if we're going to do a parent presentation, a school board on open house night, so we have to decide that on the 11th. So that's all I have. Anybody else have any ads at this point? We can get Barb an agenda early.
Okay?
Okay, Jody.
I'd like to call for an executive session on possible litigation.
I don't think that matters. So for litigation, We'd be going into executive session under 1 VSA 313A6, which is, nope, that's not right. I'm sorry. 1 VSA 313A1E.
13A1E.
Yeah.
And I'd like it to be just the board.
Okay. And I can't imagine there's going to be action taken, am I correct?
No, there won't be. Well, there may be action taken. Or we could postpone action.
We
for
could
another
postpone
meeting.
action. We could send people home in a very
Yeah, that would be, let everybody go home.
Jody? Can I send these minutes to you as is, so that you have them, be able to go back to them later?
Yeah, that's fine. And then
There's going to be no action.
You always take very good.
Oh, yeah, and vote on whether we're
But
going
I-
to executive session.
Thank you. Oop. So this is why I can't do this after
I move to
8:30.
go into executive session for
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? We vote we move into executive session, so we move into executive at 8:37? Yes.